Hi everybody, today we are going to be making a new dish. It's a little bit different, probably something that you've never tried before. It's a traditional breakfast in Mexico. It's called Huevos Rancheros, and it's pretty much eggs with some beans and some salsa mixed together and served on a tortilla. So, why is this such a nice meal to make? Well, it's a nice breakfast, so, kind of breaks up the traditional breakfast routines. I've seen it quite frequently on a lot of brunch menus recently. It's also really nice because it has a few different proteins and fats in it. There's proteins in the eggs and in the beans. There's also some fat in both of those. And there's going to be a little bit of cheese that's going to have some nice protein and fat in it as well. There's also some carbohydrates in the salsa and in the tortillas. So it's kind of an all-inclusive meal. You're getting a lot of different food groups in here. So, how do we make it? It really depends on how many people you're making it for. I'm going to be making 5. So I'm going to need 5 eggs and 5 tortillas. Some salsa. I'm using fresh salsa, but you can use regular salsa if you want to. Some beans, salt, a little bit of shredded cheese if you want to. I'm also going to be adding some cilantro just because I like the taste of cilantro and I think it's going to give it a nice flavor. Some people don't like cilantro, so you don't have to do that if you don't want to. So let's go over the directions. Preheat oven to 450 degrees. You're going to lightly coat both sides of tortillas with cooking spray and place it on a baking sheet for 5 minutes on each side until the tortillas are crisp. So you're just crisping the tortillas just to make them a little crunchier. Meanwhile, you're going to combine the salsa, the ketchup. We're not going to be adding ketchup today. If you like ketchup and you want to add ketchup, go right ahead. Some beans in a large stick skillet, and then we're going to bring it to a simmer over medium-high heat. I have a larger paella pan that I'm going to be using. Then you're going to break the eggs into there. I'm going to show you guys how we're going to be doing this, but you're going to break the eggs into a separate bowl first, and then put it into the frying pan, and you're going to cook the eggs. Now, be careful when cooking the eggs. We always want to be safe. We don't want to have any salmonella, so we're going to talk about the eggs. Cook for 5 minutes until the desired doneness. And you're going to place the tortilla on plates, and then put the Huevos Rancheros on the tortilla and serve it like that. So, let's get started. First things first, we have some tortillas. I have preheated my oven. It's still heating up real quick though. So, I'm just going to show you guys. I have my baking sheet here. We're going to be doing a nice light spray. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, this is a little weird, but if you want to brush them with some oil, I'm just going to spray them because technically this is just oil in spray form, just to make them so they're going to crisp up a little bit. While we're waiting for the oven to preheat, we're going to do the eggs. So, we have my can here. 2 things to remember about cans. We always want to rinse off the top of a can before we start cooking. Canned goods are often stored in not the cleanest conditions in warehouses and in the grocery stores, so we want to make sure that the top is clean because the top is going to contaminate the food in it. Sometimes there's some just some not clean stuff on there, dusty, some rodent leftovers. So we're going to rinse the top of the can off, and then we're going to open up the can, and you always want to rinse your beans out. Inside a can of beans is not just beans, there's also going to be some sauce in there, so we want to rinse that sauce off of it. This is to preserve the beans a little bit longer, and the recipe doesn't call for that. Sometimes the recipe will call for a whole can of beans unrinsed. Most of the time you're going to be rinsing your beans. You want to rinse your beans because there's a lot of sodium in there as well, and it's just like a starchy kind of mixture to help preserve it. So it's really just there to preserve it. It's not going to give it any flavor or anything like that. So I'm going to rinse off the can. I'm going to find my can opener because I didn't grab that before I started. Here it is. So as you can see, the top fell into the sauce. So perfect example of why we want to make sure that the top is clean, because now your beans are contaminated. I'm going to rinse this off. So I know you can see, but I went over to the sink and I rinsed the beans off in there. So these are the beans. I'm going to put the beans in here. I'm going to actually turn it on. Wait for this to get a little hotter. So I have my beans. I'm going to spray the pan a little bit. Get this started. A lot of cooking spray today. We're going to use a half a cup of salsa. Again, this is the fresh salsa. If you want to use a canned salsa or something that's not so fresh like this, you can go right ahead and do that. And just mix this up a little bit. This is a little liquidy, so it's going to just have a little bit of a different consistency. Some people like to make their own salsa when they're making this dish. Obviously, go right ahead and do so if you want to. I think that's great. Now, we're not baking, so a heavier cup is quite fine for this. You don't have to be super careful about making sure it's perfectly measured out. Alright, just starting to heat up, so I'm going to put my beans in. I'm also going to put my salsa in. Now I'm just going to mix these up. I know it looks kind of weird. You're like, oh, beans and salsa. Delicious must be. I swear it's going to taste good. Once it starts to heat up, you're going to hear some popping, and we're going to do the eggs. Remember, the thing about eggs is we want to always crack them into a separate dish. Alright, I'm going to put my tortillas in the oven so that they start crisping up. I'm going to put a timer on for 5 minutes. Alright, you can start to see some bubbling right over here. So I'm just going to keep mixing this up as best I can. While I'm waiting, I'm going to start cracking my eggs. I'm going to use 5 eggs. I'm going to crack the eggs into this measuring cup first because I don't want to get any shells in the actual dish. Alright. Now the recipe tells you to make little wells. So how you're going to do this is you're just going to make like a little spots in here for the eggs to go. So I'm going to put one right here. Nope, I got a little bit of shell in there. One right there. One right there. There we go. One right there. Now I'm going to need to put a fifth one in there, so I think I'm going to just try to push it in the middle a little bit. Yeah, that'll work. Alright, now we're just going to let these eggs cook. I'm going to put the lid over top of them. You can see how quiet it got. And just wait a little bit for them to get a little whiter. So I'm going to clean up a little bit while we're going here, and I'm going to wait for my tortillas to go out. So now you can kind of clean up a little bit. Alright, I am going to get some cilantro ready. This recipe doesn't require cilantro, so if you don't like cilantro, you don't have to add any. But I like cilantro, so we're getting some. So, what is cilantro? This is cilantro. It's an herb. It's traditionally found in Spanish dishes. And, interesting fact, not everybody has the ability to taste cilantro. So, not everybody likes cilantro. So you want to rinse it off, and then we're going to just kind of pick off the leaves. Alright, I'm going to check on my eggs. Ooh. So, what does it look like? As you can see, the eggs are starting to cook. We want to make sure that these eggs are pretty cooked. So I'm just going to jiggle the pan a little bit. And you can see that here, here, and here, they're not quite cooked all the way. You can see the beans and the salsa are really starting to cook up over here. So I'm actually just going to help these along a little bit. Now, my timer just went off for my tortillas. I'm going to flip them. They blew up a little bit. I think they're as crispy as I want them to be. I don't really want them crispier than this, especially since they blew up so much. Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to just leave them on the side here for now. Turn my oven off. Alright, so let's check on these eggs. So, everybody likes their eggs cooked a little differently. We do want to make sure that they're pretty cooked. I'm going to let mine be a little runny in the middle of the yolk, but you have to be careful with the whole issue of salmonella. I have some shredded cheese. I'm just going to sprinkle some shredded cheese. Who doesn't like some cheese? over top of everything. Not too much, just a little bit. I'm going to put the lid back on top, let the cheese melt. Now I have my cilantro. I'm just going to pick off these leaves here, like this. So, stem, the leaves. Now, you can chop these up a little bit more. I'm going to be using mine for more of a garnish, so it's not going to be, really used for flavor. So I'm just going to pick off and leave them on the side for now. All right. Let's serve it up. I'm going to grab tortilla, get a little bit of egg, a little bit of beans, just like that. Put some cilantro on top. We have a beautiful traditional Mexican breakfast that's easy to make, full of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Have a good day, guys.